Hey everybody, Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. This is show 47. Today is April 21st, 2014. And this show is going to be called bitumen. I know, Kurt says it's with a hard T, bitumen. But really, you're going to see that most people pronounce it bitumen. Actually, when I asked Judy at first, I said, Judy, what's that word? And she said bitumen. She goes, is that what happens when you bitch slap somebody? Sorry, I had to get it in. I had to get it in. But guys, has anybody noticed the gas prices going up? I mean, all of a sudden there seems to be a sudden surge. Like over the weekend, the gas prices went up. It seemed like a dime, you know? And the funny thing is, it's very funny that right before the gas prices went up, it was announced by the Obama administration that a decision on the Keystone Pipeline was going to be delayed until after November, until after election time. And I tell you, this must have really frustrated a lot of people. A lot of people, you know, that have a lot of money invested in the pipeline. And you know, guys, what I always say, and you know, now this is just one of those proving points. You know, one of the things that I always say, listen. You know, the price of gas goes up. If you put solar panels on your roof and a Tesla in your garage, you don't care if the price of gas goes to $100 a gallon. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter because they can't control the sun. And speaking of the sun, I want you guys to know Brookfield is having a solarization. There we go. Isn't that nice, guys? What? Oh. Keep talking? No, I like this better. John, put the camera back on. Is that better? All right, wait, where was I? So anyway, speaking of, okay, here we had a problem with the microphone. But anyway, so we've got solarized Brookfield. Can you go back to the graphic? There you go. And I love it, solar, simple, together. So guys, there's going to be a meeting at the Town Hall of Brookfield on May 6th at 7 o'clock. So, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down there with John, our director, you know, and we'll video the recording. You know, I mean, we'll video the proceedings. And then, you know, we'll give everybody an update, and, you know, it'll be on YouTube. But what's going on, I think Ross Solar is going to be doing all the contracting for Brookfield. And you know, that's the way the solarization program works. Remember we showed you in previous shows, you know, where they solarized Massachusetts. They had the different phases. You know, we tried to get Danbury involved, but the mayor kind of wussed out on us, you know, and danced around things. But I'm glad to see that Brookfield is stepping up to the plate. But on tonight's show, guys, we're going to show the Trans-America pipeline. You know, we're going to show you the Alberta tar sands, and you know, the funny thing is, you know, this announcement was made with the pipeline on Good Friday, guys. Almost a year ago, on Good Friday, is when the XL pipeline, well, I shouldn't say XL, when the pipeline ruptured in Arkansas, throwing that whole town into a tizzy. So remember how we showed you those videos? Well, tonight, and this is going to be the first time we're ever doing this on the show. Tonight we're going to go into the Wayback Machine. It reminds me of a Bullwinkle, a moose with Peabody and Sherman, the kids. We're going to go back to show 10, which is when we first did the spill on the pipeline. And then, you know, we're going to show the residents that happened in Mayflower. We're going to show you the residents at a town hall style meeting. And then we're going to show you what's happened to their property values. And guys, I tell you, when you see what's happened to these poor people, they can't do anything with their property. They can't sell it. They really can't live. I mean, they're doomed. And what is Exxon doing? Adios. Exxon doesn't want to know nothing. Why? Because if we have to fix it, it's got to come out of the pockets of the shareholders. And the shareholders don't pay for nothing. So we're gonna show you, I tell you, it's gonna make you sick. It's really gonna make you sick. And then after that, we're gonna show you the process of how the tar sands and the oil and how they get everything. And first we're going to show you the Walt Disney version, where everything is nice and it's clean and it's animated and all the machines work so nicely and it looks so good and everything. And then we're going to show you the actual proof. We're going to show you what the Alberta tar sands look like. And I tell you, got to have one of those barf bags next to you, because when you see what they're doing, you're going to say, you got to be kidding me. I never realized it was this bad. It's that bad and it's worse. And why? All because of profits. And when you see the amount of time and the energy and the money and the investments, these aren't investments. You know, an investment is something where you take a little bit of a gamble. These guys know exactly what they're going to get for every barrel of oil they produce. There's no risk. You know, they got everybody by the Galaducci's, and believe me, they know how to squeeze. They know how to take advantage. Just look what's going on with the prices now. And then we're going to show you how disruptive the whole project and the process is. And then we're going to show you the cost of carbon again, guys. Because let's be honest with each other. We're going to have to pay for this. One way or the other, we're going to have to pay for it. And if I'm going to have to pay the piper, I want to be telling him what tunes to play. You know what I mean? All right, so anyway, the first video we're going to show you tonight comes from a website called Upworthy. And the guy that produced the video, his name is Raymond Kirk Ramos. And I tell you, he did like a little parody. You'll enjoy what he did. I really don't know how to explain it, but he's got a technique that I think you'll really enjoy. And I tell you, in his own way, he does some nice bada binging. So John, let's have the first clip.
They want to add value to that raw crude oil, ship that overseas, and then continue to import higher-priced oil from the Middle East that we still need.
How will the Keystone XL pipeline benefit the United States?
TransCanada has been
an environmental disaster
for years.
This next story may be cause for concern.
Another pipeline,
TransCanada pipeline explosion.
Building the pipeline would inject
3.1 million gallons of hazardous liquids per year
through the community.
They're going to be spilling a hell of a lot of oil.
Parts of this town are still covered in a thick, toxic sludge.
A spill of this toxic sludge would be an economic and environmental disaster.
The black sludge spilled onto the streets.
A major cleanup is now underway.
Why are there so many people opposed to this pipeline?
The oil from Keystone XL will go directly
down this waterway.
And in so doing, it runs through
The largest source of fresh water in the United States.
There's the maintenance type jobs that go with it.
Inadequate field investigation, inadequate inspection.
Like any other responsible business.
TransCanada at fault.
It shut down the TransCanada pipeline Thursday because of safety issues.
TransCanada knew about the problems with the pipeline, but didn't do enough to prevent the explosion.
The reason why we've built the pipeline is
strictly for private gain.
It's an investment that we make money with. Keystone XL means
forcing families from their homes.
That's the way we do business.
Thick, hazardous slime covers yards and streets in this subdivision.
At the end of the day, it's the people affected who pick up the slack.
People living in the communities where a pipeline is located.
Collateral damage in the way of big oil.
People are still suffering with the long-term effects caused by breathing toxins on a daily basis.
I mean, look.
Residents couldn't believe what they were seeing.
That is a pipeline that is busted.
These pipelines are just too dangerous for the environment.
It is not crude oil. It is not in the strategic interest of America to even have this crap coming down here.
There's something wrong with the pipeline system.
Take, for example,
the second incident this week where Canadian crude has spilled in the United States.
TransCanada's first Keystone line in the U.S. spilled at least a dozen times just in its first year of operation.
Where is the public interest in this?
It doesn't make sense.
Why did this happen? And this is not all right.
They've lied, they've misrepresented this entire project.
Oil giants get away with violations like that all too often.
All we have to do is pay more, both in terms of money at the gas pump and cost to the environment.
Which is why people across the Midwest are fighting to stop the pipeline.
So guys, wasn't that a novel approach? I mean, the way he made all those little cuts. And I mean, I've never seen it done. I've seen it done, but not as quickly and rapidly as he did. And I tell you, there was some bada binging going on there, and that's what we need. I mean, because, you know, what normally gets the attention is when you show the pools of oil, when you show the disgust, and when you show where, I mean, people can, you know, we can talk about climate change, we can talk about a lot of things, but when you see oil in somebody's driveway and it's knee deep, and in one of the videos, the kid says, you know, when I came here, you could have canoed down the street, the oil was so deep. And, you know, and when you see, you know, a pipeline, you know, and what we're going to do is we're going to show you, and this is the first time we've done this on the show, we're actually taking a clip from show number 10, which we did back on April 15th, 2013. This is when the pipeline first ruptured, and believe it or not, it was on a Good Friday. So, John, let's go back in the Wayback Machine, and guys, I want you to see how much better the set and all the set design has come. We've come such a long way in 1 year. So, John, let's have the first clip. Hit it. Now, that was the beauty. Now we're going to get to the beast, the part that's going to make you puke. And when you see what Exxon's done, and how what you're going to notice is that the two videos that we're going to be presented, the people are speaking with a British accent. Why? Because Exxon established a no-fly zone over the oil spill, the pipeline. Can you imagine this? Having the power and the ability to make sure that nobody can record the damage? All right, let the puking begin. John, show the video.
On Good Friday, a pipeline operated by ExxonMobil ruptured. Adam's going to tell you all about it, so start focusing now.
So that is a pipeline that is busted and is flooded the neighborhood.
The Pegasus pipeline carries up to 90,000 barrels of crude oil extracted from tar sands every day from Illinois to Texas. On Good Friday, ExxonMobil's pipeline ruptured near Mayflower, Arkansas, and thousands of gallons spilt into the town and the surrounding area. Exxon say oil stopped spilling out of the pipeline at 3 a.m. the next day and the cleanup operation began. Vacuum trucks came into town, clearing up the mess, reducing the smell of oil in the air and putting down 3,600 meters of boom to protect the nearby Lake Conway. The next day, a spokesman from Exxon said, "We were just in the nick of time." Reports from the scene say a no-fly zone was established around the lake by the Federal Aviation Authority, and it's claimed Exxon were in control of it. And on the ground, reporters alleged that they were threatened with arrest if they went into the area. But JNL Radical Media took the chance and went down to the marshland, and this is what they found.
Anybody wondering what those Exxon paper towels look like? What the fuck?
We asked Exxon how much oil got into the lake, and they say none, but it has definitely got into the wetlands, and it was running down the streets and getting into people's gardens.
You gotta get that stuff off your hand.
I know.
We spoke to ExxonMobil and they said the no-fly zone had been lifted last week and they weren't aware of any arrests made. We've got a link in the description to their cleanup operation if you want to take a look. Also, if you like this video, check out the 2 videos to my right. We've got a video about green power's bright new future and fracking, but most importantly, hit subscribe and we'll see you again next time.
All right, let the puking continue. This is from the BBC. John, roll it.
The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has imposed an indefinite no-fly zone over an area in Arkansas recently affected by an oil spill. It sparked concern that the ExxonMobil oil company may be trying to keep the TV cameras away from the scene. RT's Marina Portnaya has more for us now, live in the States. Marina, why would a no-fly zone be imposed over an oil spill? It's not exactly a war zone, is it?
It's not a war zone whatsoever, but the Federal Aviation Administration, they say that the indefinite no-fly zone, which they're calling temporary flight restrictions, was put in place as a hazard warning. Officials say this is so emergency support are able to respond to the disaster immediately. Now, the FAA's online posting noted that only relief aircraft operated under the direction of Mr. Tom Suroff are permitted in the area. Now, according to his LinkedIn profile, Mr. Suroff lists himself as an aviation advisor for ExxonMobil. He is not an emergency expert or a safety official. This, of course, has caused many critics to speculate that the real reason behind this indefinite no-fly zone is to minimize news coverage that can further damage the reputation of ExxonMobil. Now, on April 1st, the first day that this indefinite no-fly zone was put in place, an aerial video surfaced online revealing the extent of the horrific damage of this oil spill. According to ExxonMobil's press release, the spill has totaled upwards of 10,000 barrels of crude oil as of Monday. The company has deployed 15 vacuum trucks, 33 storage tanks, and 120 workers, at least, to the cleanup site. We also know that at least 22 homes have been evacuated so far, leaving dozens of residents seeking shelter elsewhere.
And ExxonMobil, they're saying they're already paying out compensation. So who's getting this money?
Well, that's what ExxonMobil says, but RT recently spoke with a Mayflower resident, Chris Harrell. Now, Mr. Harrell told us that he has not received any indication of any kind of compensation or settlement offers from ExxonMobil. Mr. Harrell said that on Sunday, when he went home briefly for Easter here in the States, he received a letter on his front door from ExxonMobil that apologized, quote, apologized for the inconvenience. Mr. Harrell said that those that have been evacuated are being provided the hotel rooms paid for by ExxonMobil. But at a community meeting that took place over the weekend with some Exxon officials, Mr. Harrell says that very few answers were given, and all those in attendance were very frustrated, very angry. ExxonMobil has not indicated how long cleanup will take. Mr. Harrell told RT that the major concern for many people in the neighborhood is the longer-term impact from the spill, both environmentally and financially. What will this circumstance due to property values in that area. Most residents, according to Mr. Harrell, who we spoke with, didn't even know that ExxonMobil's pipeline ran through that streets. And the pipeline we're specifically referring to can carry more than 90,000 barrels of Canadian heavy crude oil per day from Illinois to Texas. So that is something that most residents in the community were not even aware of, that pipeline was going through their neighborhood.
Just finally, there have been bigger oil spills than this in the past. What's the usual reaction from officials and the companies involved?
Well, look, the bigger the oil spill, the bigger the news coverage. And of course, this oil spill taking place in Arkansas is not as big as the one that took place in the Gulf of Mexico a few years back. But the concern for many people, especially residents that are directly affected by this oil spill, is that it's not going to receive the coverage that it needs to receive to find those responsible for this oil spill accountable. This is still a very disastrous oil spill that's going to harm the community, harm the environment, harm, as Mr. Harrell told RT, property values. And if the media is not given access to cover this oil spill, to cover the extent and the damage and the circumstances of it, then there may be less accountability. That is the major concern. And at the end of the day, those that are affected by this, and I think citizens all throughout the United States want to know why it took place, what could have prevented it, and if someone's responsible for this, they should be held accountable.
Live in New York, RT's Marina Portnaya. Thank you very much indeed for that update.
Did you see those poor pelicans huddled together, the 3 pelicans? What are they going to do? Their lives are over. That whole area, what are you going to do? Did you see the for sale sign on the house? Guess what? It ain't sold anymore. What are these people going to do? You ever try to clean oil off anything? You can't. This stuff, oil is bad jazz. The only thing good about oil is it's a necessary evil. And we need to get rid of it. We didn't know any better. Now we do. Boy, I look so much younger then, didn't I? A year ago. Hey guys, I'm lucky I'm still here. Thankful I'm still here. But anyway, let's see. The next, you're not going to believe this. After what they've done, Exxon has the audacity to want to open up this pipeline again. These guys, they have no shame. It's unbelievable. So let's take a look at a town hall to the people of Mayflower where Exxon wants to open up the pipeline. So John, let's have the next clip.
Crude oil spewed out of the ExxonMobil pipeline, coiling its way through a suburban neighborhood in Mayflower, Arkansas, some of it ending up at a nearby creek. But work crews were able to stop the oil from reaching Lake Conway, a popular fishing spot. But even after an around-the-clock cleanup effort, a thick tar remained on residential streets. 22 homes were evacuated.
When I got here, you could have canoed down the street. There was so much oil running down through there. It was a mess. And even after they had evidently shut it off somewhere on upstream, if you will, there was still a lot of oil flowing down the street.
The Environmental Protection Agency has categorized this breach as a major spill. The Pegasus pipeline can carry more than 90,000 barrels of heavy crude oil per day from Illinois to Texas. Exxon did not put a hard estimate on the number of barrels of oil that spilled, except to say it was a few thousand. The cause of the pipeline rupture is still under investigation.
We are working as rapidly as possible to get this cleaned up and to get people's lives back to normal. We will allow people in when the state agrees that it is safe and appropriate for people to come back and occupy their homes again.
There are 160,000 miles of pipeline crisscrossing the United States. The Arkansas oil spill comes as President Obama is weighing whether to approve a new Keystone XL pipeline, 1,700 miles of pipeline carrying 700,000 barrels of crude a day, stretching through the country's heartland. The Keystone pipeline carries a dense Canadian tar sands oil. critics say this lower quality oil can corrode over time.
Keystone XL is a dirty and dangerous pipeline. It's literally going to cut our country in half, carrying a very dangerous fuel, and it will cause runaway climate change.
Keystone's proponents, however, say it would lessen U.S. dependence on oil from the Middle East, and they argue transporting oil by pipeline is far safer than by road or rail.
It would be equipped with 16,000 sensors that would monitor the flow of the oil, so they knew if there was any abnormal activity, it would shut down quickly. Not to mention that they studied all of the other risks to wildlife and vegetation and concluded this pipeline would be safe.
For the families in Arkansas, that debate might seem like a million miles away. The most immediate question on their mind, when can they return home?
Guys, I don't know, you would think with all this added experience I wouldn't make any more mistakes, but living proof, stuff happens. But that was just more reinforcement for how you could see. And guys, once oil gets in the system, you're done. And you're gonna see, not the next clip, but the clip after that. Because the next clip is the one that we were gonna, what I thought was lined up, but this is the town hall meeting where these people are actually, where they're thinking, you know, that Exxon wants to reopen this thing. And I'm telling you, how could you guarantee anything with Exxon? They don't care. And the following video will prove it to you. But John, let's show this one now with the town hall meeting.
I don't understand how either the company or PHMSA agrees to open 1 inch of this pipe until they can conclusively say what happened in the first place. And as long as we are shrouded in mystery, even in the last day or so, where they're saying that there are these forces that are beyond any human being's conception and ability to foresee that have caused this rupture, then how in the world can they with any degree of certainty assure the government or the people that it's not about to happen again at any random time?
It was down in the weeds that much. That's the claims process you're talking about. That's where I was extremely frustrated, because that's where the rubber hits the road with people's lives. And if you're not addressing that part of the problem, you can't communicate anything.
It could have been much more disastrous for the watershed if it had been even slightly further south. It could have been beneath the Arkansas River. It could have been in an area where it would have taken 2 days literally to use bulldozers to plow a road just through the forest to get to it.
This process that we're going through with Exxon as a responsible party is very similar and mirrors the same process that we go through with any responsible party out there that causes environmental contamination. The timelines are well within sync, if not a little bit more advanced than what we have on a typical basis when we're dealing with environmental contamination of this nature.
We do not feel comfortable to date that other segments of the pipe within the 13.5 miles do not display those same characteristics that the ruptured section has.
How could these, I mean, how could you even want to think about that? And I mean, why would you want to think about that? But on the video before that, guys, the one guy that was the proponent of the pipeline, his name was Nick Loris. And guess where he was from? The Heritage Foundation. That's right, one of the Koch brothers' think tanks. And you know what? He'll look at the oil and tell you how good it is for the people of Arkansas and how fortunate they are to be able to have this oil at their doorstep. And guys, I tell you, when you see the next clip and how these people can't sell their homes, you're going to get sick. And this one's called Barrels of Trouble. And with oil and burning fossil fuels, that's all you get. is trouble. Are there any questions? I always love to tell my bloggers, my blogging friends, Joey! Joey, any questions? Be specific and name your sources. Joe. I love you, Joe. Hey, Joe helped me with my oil burner. Hey, that's another thing. You know, I had some problems, and I had to bleed my oil burner, and a little tiny bit of fuel oil. I put it in there, it was in a tin can, and I left it in there for the day. Man, you wouldn't believe how much fuel oil smells. And I'm saying, my son goes, Dad, something's wrong. You did something wrong. I said, yeah, I got a house with an oil burner, but we ain't gonna change that now. So anyway, this next clip is really this is gonna get to you. So John, hit it.
Caught up in the middle of an environmental disaster, people in the U.S. state of Arkansas are finding themselves bogged down in barrels of trouble. Almost a year after a pipeline rupture caused a massive oil spill, people are still suffering with the long-term effects caused by breathing toxins on a daily basis. And if huge health risks weren't enough, some are finding it hard to leave the contaminated area, as RT's Guyana Chichi Khan found out.
Almost a year after 200,000 gallons of heavy crude spilled onto their streets, residents of Mayflower in Arkansas are striving to leave the town.
Here in Mayflower, for sale signs are everywhere. Almost every house on this street is on sale. Before the spill, this was a place where people wanted to move in, to enjoy the beautiful nature around. Many didn't even know there was a pipeline running under their houses, and now they just want out.
Many have already left, and Gerald, one of them.
I tried to stay here. I tried to just be away, you know, as much as I could, but if it rained, I could not stay here because it would all seep up through the oil again, you know, where the ground was dry, it would kind of, I guess, encase it, and then when it rained, all those vapors would come back again.
She says, like many other residents of Mayflower, she started having constant headaches and coughing after the spill.
I have friends that live just behind me that are still here. They don't have a place to go. They have small children.
You don't have to look at the kids in 20 years when they get sick or find out something's wrong and they say, well, why didn't we leave, Mom? Why'd everybody else leave? Well, some people just aren't able to pick up and leave like that.
Exxon wrote back to us saying that a unified command comprised of Exxon representatives as well as officials from the state and federal environmental services has deemed all areas affected by the Mayflower spill now safe to live in. But many of the residents don't buy it, and their homes are not selling.
I would say that the number of homes sold in Mayflower has dropped by at least 50 to 60%.
But Arkansas oil spill is only a fraction of annual pipeline leaks. It's estimated that between 2008 and 2012, U.S. pipelines spilled an average of more than 3.1 million gallons of hazardous liquids per year. Plans for the Keystone XL pipeline, a massive project that would stretch from Canada's oil sands to refineries in Texas, have caused many to worry that they may become collateral damage in the way of big oil, like the residents of Mayflower, Arkansas.
There's a lot of us that have been forgotten. We're just collateral damage.
In Mayflower, I'm Ganesh Chekyan, RT.
All right. Guys, you see it. I mean, what are those people? You would think that Exxon would step up to the plate and at least offer everybody blanket, I don't know, amnesty. What do you offer people? What do you, after you've ruined their life, what do you offer somebody when you just ruined their goddamn life? What do you say to them? What do you do? You know, I get so upset. Jesus Christ. All right, now we're going to show you the Mickey Mouse version of why these guys ship this crap in pipes. And you're going to see how he came up with this, how do you say this, bitumen? Oh boy, I'm bitched off now. So anyway, all right, John, let's roll the next clip.
The OSP mining, extraction, and upgrading process is unique and complex, and this is how it actually works. Before the oil sands can be mined, the layers of muskeg rock and soil known as overburden are cleared away and stored for later reclamation use. Giant shovels measuring 7 stories each, with a large bucket that scoops up to 100 metric tons of oil-soaked dirt in a single load, pick up the oil sands ore and drop it into a series of gigantic heavy hauler trucks. Each 400-ton truck carries enough bitumen to make about 200 barrels of oil and can make 30 to 50 trips each shift. The trucks dump the oil sands into 2 massive primary crushers. Inside the crushers, huge steel teeth break up and grind the large chunks of ore down to about 16 inches or 45 centimeters. Each double roll crusher can process 14,000 tons of oil sands ore per hour. The ore is then carried along the world's largest capacity conveyor belt to a storage silo. There, ore is fed up 3 conveyors to the rotary drum breakers, where warm water is added and the rotating drums agitated vigorously, creating a mixture called slurry. The slurry is then moved through a 2-kilometer pipeline to the extraction plant, a process known as hydrotransport. The slurry sloshes along inside the pipeline, and the movement further agitates the bitumen, beginning the separation process. After hydrotransport, the slurry enters the primary separation cell, the first stage of bitumen extraction. The cells stand out as large cones against the backdrop of the buildings and pipe racks of the plant. When the slurry enters the separation cells, water is added to help separate out the bitumen. In the cell, the bitumen floats to the top of the vessel, the sand sinks to the bottom, and a combination of mostly water mixed with sand, bitumen, and clay sits in the middle. These are known as middlings, which are treated again to recover more bitumen. The product from extraction is known as froth and typically consists of 60% bitumen, 30% water, and 10% solids. In the froth treatment plant, the froth is mixed with a paraffinic solvent that reduces viscosity and precipitates asphaltenes. The result is a water and solids-free bitumen, clean enough to be upgraded using hydrogen addition technology. This mixture of bitumen and paraffinic solvent, or diluent, is called dilbit. The dilbit is shipped 493 kilometers south to the Scotford upgrader through the corridor pipeline. Light oils that are part of the bitumen received from the mine are first separated, including the diluent that is used to transport the bitumen to the upgrader. The remaining residue, a tar-like fluid from the bitumen, is upgraded by applying heat, hydrogen, and pressure to break the large carbon chains that make up a bitumen molecule. Upgrading methods create lighter hydrocarbon molecules by either removing carbon or adding hydrogen molecules to the long bitumen molecule chain. Shell uses the hydrogen addition process. In a vessel called a hydrocracker, hydrogen is added to create smaller hydrocarbon molecules that are easier for refineries to process. Most of the hydrogen used for hydrocracking is produced on-site by a hydrogen manufacturing unit. The byproduct created is then converted to pure sulfur in the sulfur recovery unit. The hydrogen addition process has some advantages over the traditional coking process used at other oil sand operations. Coking removes carbon, creating a waste byproduct. Shell's method adds hydrogen to produce approximately 103 barrels of upgraded crude oil from every 100 barrels of bitumen processed. This volume processing gain is a significant advantage over coking, which delivers only 85 barrels of crude for every 100 barrels processed. It's a volume advantage of over 18%. Shell's synthetic crude products are then sent to refineries, including Shell's Scotford refinery next door, where the oil is turned into a variety of high-quality fuels that people use every day.
I guess bitching is better than coking, you know? And did you see the barrels of oil? Through bitumen, you get, I forget the percentage, you know. The bitumen, you get 103 barrels of oil for every 100 barrels, and with the coke method, you only get 85 for 100 barrels of oil. The Koch brothers don't like that. But I mean, guys, you know, everything looked so nice and clean, and it was such a nice process, and look how we do this, and it's all so nice and sanitary and clean, and it's for you and your kids, and nah. Wait till you see what it really looks like. And then we're even going to show you in the video pictures from space. And when you see these tailing ponds full of carcinogens that are leaching into the groundwater, and who knows where they're going. I mean, this is like a wasteland. It's like a nuclear dead zone. And when you say, what the hell is going on? But guys, you know what? The video can do a lot better than I can. So John, hit it.
You might not have heard about Canada's oil sands before, but this massive energy project is causing a lot of concern in environmental circles. One organisation has even labelled it the most destructive project on Earth. So what exactly is it? Oil sand, or tar sand, depending on who you speak to, is a naturally occurring mixture of sand, clay or other minerals, water, and, most importantly, bitumen. This is what a grain of the mixture looks like. Bitumen, which is found on the outside of the grain, is an extremely thick and sticky oil, which must be treated before it can be used by refineries to produce usable fuels like gasoline, or petrol if you live in the UK, and diesel. This sand mixture can be found in several locations around the globe, including Venezuela, the United States and Russia, but it's Canada's deposits of the stuff that have really got people talking. Even the name of Canada's deposits is controversial. While environmentalists prefer to refer to them as tar sands, the Canadian government has officially named the deposits oil sands and says the sand mixture doesn't actually contain any tar. It's popularly believed that tar sounds much dirtier and more threatening than oil, and who uses which term has become a massive source of debate. To keep things easy, we'll refer to the deposits by their official name. But let's get back on track. Located below 140,200 square kilometres of land in the country's Alberta province, Canada's oil sands is the third largest proven crude oil reserve in the world, behind Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. In 2011, it was believed the reserve amounted to 170.2 billion barrels of oil, or about 11% of total global oil reserves. In other words, a lot of oil. In 2012, production at the oil sands reserve was averaging 1.9 million barrels of oil a day, with the Alberta government saying it expects this to increase to 3 million barrels per day by 2018 in order to keep pace with demand. And this expansion is being financed by $19 billion a year in investments. Only 20% of the oil sands deposits lie near to the surface where they can be easily mined. And this is around the Athabasca River. The rest of the deposits are buried more than 75 meters below ground. These images from NASA's Landsat satellite shows the growth of the surface mines around the Athabasca River between 1984 and 2011. Much of the demand for Canadian oil is coming from the US, the world's largest consumer of oil. Canada is the biggest supplier of oil to the US, and in August 2013, they were sending their neighbour an average 2.6 million barrels of the stuff every single day. The Alberta-based company TransCanada Corp even wants to build a pipeline linking the oil sands to refineries on the US's Gulf Coast. The Keystone XL pipeline would transport 800,000 barrels of oil per day across a distance of 1,179 miles. And the development of Canada's oil sands is concerning environmentalists for several reasons. For starters, producing oil from oil sand or tar sand releases 3 times the volume of greenhouse gases as producing conventional oil. Every day, 600 million cubic feet of natural gas, a greenhouse gas emitting fossil fuel, is used to produce oil from the oil sands. According to the Pembina Institute, a non-profit environmental organisation, that's enough gas to heat more than 3 million Canadian homes. And if all the oil in the oil sands reserve was extracted, then the former NASA climate scientist, Professor James Hansen, believes it would be game over for the climate. But that's not all. The extraction of oil from the oil sands has also led to huge swathes of forest being destroyed. And then there's the contaminated water that's a byproduct of the process used to turn the bitumen into usable fuel. This water contains leftover bitumen as well as solvents used to separate bitumen from the sand mixture and is known as tailings. Energy companies store tailings in open man-made lakes known as tailing ponds. At present, there are more than 170 square kilometres of tailing ponds in the Alberta province, which are considered to be one of the largest human-made structures in the world. In fact, the ponds are so large that they can be seen from space. According to the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, these ponds present a number of what they call challenges. This includes the fact that seepage from the groundwater can occur, as well as the fact that the water contains chemicals that are toxic to fish, and that residual oil can float to the surface of the ponds and pose a risk to waterfowl. In 2010, the energy company Syncrude was fined $3 million Canadian after a flock of 1,606 birds died after landing on its tailings ponds back in 2008. And according to a 2008 report by the non-profit social movement organisation, the Polaris Institute, there had been an unusually high rate of illnesses amongst the tiny community of Fort Chipewyan, located on the Athabasca Lake into which the Athabasca River flows. This included unusual rates of a bile duct cancer that is very rare. The community believes the source of their sickness is the water. And in October 2013, communities bordering the Athabasca River were warned not to drink from the waterway after a breach in a tailings storage pond dumped 1 billion litres of contaminated water. If development at the oil sands reserve continues to expand at current rates, then according to the Pembina Institute, by 2022, so much fuel will be being produced that just a month's output of this contaminated wastewater could turn an area the size of New York Central Park into a toxic reservoir 11 feet deep. But despite the ongoing expansion of development at oil sands, there are signs that the tide is beginning to turn against the project. A European Union intention to designate oil from sands as 25% more polluting than conventional oil would effectively see imports of oil from the oil sands banned. Naturally, the Canadian government isn't all that happy about this, however, and has even threatened a trade war with the EU over the proposal. Only time will tell who will win out. So in the meantime, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so leave a comment and we'll see you again next time.
How do they get people to work there? I mean, honestly. I mean, could you imagine going there every day to work? That's gotta be soul destroying. Imagine kissing your kids goodbye in the morning. Kids, I gotta go work in a hellhole, and I gotta help try to kill the planet. I mean, and you know, guys, I tell you, up until this weekend, I had no idea that this stuff was as bad as I heard it was. I mean, now that I really looked at it, and I hope this show has convinced you that this stuff is just, this is as bad as it gets. When you have to sell this kind of crap to your neighbors, I mean, there's something wrong here. And you know, the funny thing was, they said, in the video, they said, the amount of energy needed to heat the sand, the amount of energy to heat the sand would be able to heat 3 million Canadian homes. You gotta be kidding me. So rather than putting the heat to a beneficial use, you're gonna generate the heat so you can take the crap out of this stuff. I mean, I don't know what else to say. We need a carbon tax. That's, you know, in the one clip they showed the dump trucks, and I forget how many tons. I should have done my homework. But, you know, for each one of those big dump trucks, you know, I think they wanted, in the last show, I think we did the carbon tax, they wanted like $40 a ton. You know, this is what you got to start charging these guys. Hey, look at what you're doing. I mean, come on. Oh, they should pay us just to look at this stuff. So anyway, the next clip we're going to do is on the carbon tax. And it's the cost of carbon. And guys, it affects us all. We're going to pay for it one way or the other. So if we got to pay the piper, let's start calling the tunes. So John, the cost of carbon, hit it.
It's like everything you know and love, you just see it get swept away in a matter of hours.
The wind is just shifting continuously.
I've gone through several years like this, but not this long and not this dry.
So this is the cost of carbon pollution. We may not realize it, but climate change is affecting us, all of us, right now. We're seeing it all over the news, from the bottom of the oceans to the tops of the mountains, and in the faces of victims across the globe. How did we get here? Let's start at the beginning. It's 1824, and French physicist Joseph Fourier uses a vase and some cork to figure out that there's an atmosphere trapping heat and making the Earth habitable. Right about this time, we also hit the Industrial Revolution, the birth of large-scale manufacturing and coal power, and the beginning of the carbon boom. 1896 rolls around, and a couple scientists figure out that CO2 from burning all that oil and coal could affect global temperatures. Their numbers based on these fuel consumption rates showed that we had a few thousand years before we had to worry. So we didn't. Then the 1960s came, and things started getting ugly. No, worse. Charles Keeling had captured enough data to determine that carbon levels in the air were directly related to the amount of fossil fuel burned, and that levels were going up. In 2010, NASA declared 2000 to 2009 the warmest decade on record. But hey, what does NASA know?
One small step for man.
Oh yeah, that. And that's sort of the way it's gone. Which brings us to today. Today we live in a world of extreme erratic weather. And here's the kicker. It's costing us big time, right now. In 2013, insurance losses from flooding in Central Europe were estimated at $3.9 billion. In Australia, the 2013 Denali fire alone cost roughly $87 million. And these costs don't just end with the massive damage control bills. The effects ripple through our lives, costing us in other ways. Take Hurricane Sandy, for example. The initial damages cost roughly $65 billion. But what about the small business owners that either lost merchandise, customers, or their entire business because of flooding? And it's not just money. Some of us are paying with lives and livelihood. Others are paying in pain, damage, and suffering. In fact, the climate crisis is recognized as one of the world's leading threats to political stability and national security. The point is, we are all paying today for carbon pollution. Every one of us. We're paying in dollars, in lives, in jobs, in lifestyles, and in every way imaginable. This is not a theory. It's not an opinion. This is the cost of carbon.
Guys, like I say, we're going to pay for it one way or the other. How do you want to pay for it? I mean, it's that simple, you know? And if everybody, you know, if there's a carbon tax, and the idea is to give the tax back to the people. All right, now, listen, This has been a rough show. This has been rough for me, I tell you. I'm not used to this, and it really bothered me because, you know, now you really start to see what's going on, and this is devious crap. I mean, to sell this stuff to the American people is just evil. And, you know, like when I was talking to Joe about this, you know, I said, Joe, you know, we've got to have alternatives. And he goes, well, what do you think? Should they ship it by rail or should they ship it by... I said, Joe, get rid of oil. What are you missing? You know? Get rid of fossil fuels. What don't you understand? All right, that's enough. Now we're going to look on the bright side. We're going to look at a clip from the Origins Project, which is done by one of my favorites, Lawrence Krauss, and you're going to see some of the heavyweights in science. And guys, it's all about science. So we're going to play the clip, and then we're going to come back to me. We're going to roll credits. Oh, and don't forget, keep mentioning Martino's Pizza. They're one of our sponsors. When you're up there, stop by and tell Marco I said hi. John, hit it.
What will we find when we go into space? Is there alien life out there, or are we alone in the universe? We will have to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Welcome to the Origins Project at ASU. I'm Lawrence Krauss. The Origins Project was designed to explore the deepest questions that humans have ever asked. We're bringing together the world's greatest minds, the most amazing group of public intellectuals and scientists that's ever been on one stage at one time, in this massive 3,000-seat auditorium where they can interact with each other and the public like never before.
Science! We have this dilemma that our soon descendants may see things from a hilltop across which we can't see now.
Science is more than a body of knowledge. It's a way of thinking.
When I see a kid open up his or her eyes and say, oh my God, this is spectacular, it feels great.
And here to present the Dear Aliens Award, Professor Stephen Hawking.
Science is hard, but it's worth it. It's fascinating, it's enthralling.
Scientists see science as an adventure, and that's why these are adventure stories about discovery and about the thrill of discovery.
And the geek shall inherit the earth.
This is just the beginning.
It is certainly one of those critical questions that we all ask ourselves as young children. Mommy and Daddy, where did I come from?
You need to have a public that's at least willing to engage with the ideas and really reevaluate and think about things.
It's ironic, I think, that science at this point finds itself in the position of a messenger who is about to be killed because of the message that he has.
Okay, guys, so I don't know, I'm confused again. Whenever we come to the end, we always we have these adventures. But hey, there's wrap it up. There's Martino's Pizza just went by. Marco, thank you very much. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. We want to take a look at solarizing Brookfield. So we'll see you next week, guys. 2, 1. Take care.